Hi guys, sorry about that. The Facebook live stream is not cooperating. So maybe this won't be live right now and we'll just share it after, but I think it's more crucial that we start right away. I'm Elizabeth McDuffie.
Mark Allen Miller.
Welcome to 100,000 Poets, Artists, and Musicians for Change and its 10th anniversary from when it was conceived. This is a truly global event on this day in over 100 countries all over the world. People have gathered to read their poetry, make music, and in other ways raise their voices in the interest of much needed change. And I know we're starting behind schedule, so I am going to, without further ado and with much pride, invite my first reader, who I've been honored to be able to publish and meet for tea, and who has a book out, one José Oseguera. So welcome, José.
So yeah, there we are. Hello, José.
Right. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for inviting me to be here. Yeah, Elizabeth was actually the very first person to ever publish me, and I'm very, very thankful to her. Today, I'll be reading two pieces. One of them I wrote when I was first dating my now wife, and the second one was published by Me for Tea, and that's after we had our first baby. So kind of bookends there. The first one's called On Lassen Street. On Lassen Street, our bodies lay as one, on one bed, under one cover, between a heaven and earth, whose beginning and end we'll never know. We are one body, one over one makes one, you plus me, you in me, you, me, one. How will I be different from the men in whose arms you once found love and comfort? What about those you chose to leave for me, not caring whether they could have given you a better life? Or the ones that make you wish I were more like them? Those that still smile in pictures and laugh with their teeth, their saliva sweet on their lips, because you don't know yet what hell it spits. What will I do to keep me here, to keep me yours, draped in nothing but silence, and be given a new name, a new life, a new love, whose echoes rise from your crevices, where my hands cannot reach, where everything's anew, lying naked as being without words, when all you need to say is nothing. West 6th Street by the park. The small amount of milk that continues to distill from your breasts isn't enough to nourish me, yet I crave it, and I try to ignore our son's premature weaning, how he's innocent though he squandered the gift of nursing from your body. Exit wounds that were born healed, now open, as gates from within that flooded all of the cavities and chambers and empty spaces you once knew as yours. They allowed new life to flow through so that you could nourish our budding flower. Your ambrosia is sweet and pours out of your ducts a drop at a time, bone distilled as liquid pearls. Its pace dictates the manner by which it should be enjoyed. Slow as Eucharized wine from blood, whose grapes were irrigated by Christmases and birthdays, scraped knees and first kisses, missing teeth laughter and bad hair days, and dreams realized and yet to be dreamed, all present and singing their individual strain in the streams of white. So I'll drink your skin and transmuted sinew, even if it's rooted in depriving our boy of his birthright, your inner warmth, the sumptuous gulp that filled the tissue crowning your chest. I will never forget when your milk first came in, punctual, perfect, and ripe for eating. That immutable force that rung deep within your ribs like a bell, releasing a fiery letdown. How comforted we were when she stayed with us, biding her time like a mother we never knew we needed. But as patient and nurturing as she was in the way she spoke to us and taught us that we would be enough for our child, less and less of her stuff inhabited our lives. As the exit wounds healed once more, the empty spaces returned as she dwindled in your breasts, like sand grains in an hourglass, sifting through the treasure stored in your chest, bidding our home farewell. And though she took the milk with her when she left, she made sure that what remained in those spaces was filled with mother. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. That was beautiful. Next up, we have the brilliant Seth Cable.
All right, so let's bring Seth in.
Hi, Seth. Seth has been
Hi.
also published in Meat for Tea, as has everyone in this group.
All right, so I'm gonna pop over to you and take it away once I can. There we go.
Oh, well. Let me just say again, thank you so much to Elizabeth for inviting me to be a part of this incredible event. So I'll start off reading a couple things that are new. So this one is, it's a bit topical. It's titled, With the Light of Spring, We Calculate the Fall. There was a beautiful shape in the sky, and beautiful things were falling from it. I watched them from the hills high above our neighborhood through Jeff's binoculars. From our distance, they appeared to my unaided sight like fragments of glass or filaments of wire, but under magnification, though, one could discern their distinct forms. There were movie theaters and baseball teams, men and women in business attire, comically overcomplicated implements of torture, alarms and calendars, children sharing embarrassing secrets, bloodless coups, and the security of a shared humanity. Buffeted by the wind, these beautiful things coalesced into a cloud, swirled below the beautiful shape, and then sailed away great distances. Sitting next to me, Jeff asked, "Are those going to hit anybody, do you think?" Through the binoculars, I inspected the persons in the neighborhoods below. They were gathered close together on their lawns and on their roofs, their faces uncovered and turned upwards, tracing the trajectories of all the beautiful things. "Oh, definitely those people are getting hit," I replied. It was so bright that day in the hills where we sat. After the long northern winter, the late days of April brought a euphoria that swam into your muscles from your sun-toasted skin. It was so vital to finally feel that warmth, even as you watch that beautiful shape filling the air with all those beautiful things. I sat and watched that shape for as long as I could. Ever since that shape appeared, it was the first thing I would set my eyes to in the morning, and after the sun had set, I would lay in the dark on my bed and scroll through an unending ribbon of pictures and stories about it until I'd find myself waking the next morning from another lucid dream. That beautiful shape was distant numbers, locking together nearly perfectly, but only nearly perfectly. That beautiful shape was an exquisitely balanced melody, repeating nearly identically, but only nearly. And those errant numbers and notes would always promise some new excitement or dread arriving imminently. Who could ever bear to look away? Well, Jeff began to look away. I held my binoculars out to him on that hill, but he made no motion. "No thanks," he said. "I can see well enough from here. Is that shape still there?" "Of course it is," I replied. "It's not going anywhere." With a sly and superior grin, he admonished me to do my own research. "Soon," he said, "there will be a hard rain, and the rain will wash that shape from the sky." Are you so sure it's going to rain? I asked. I mean, it's so clear today. As if to reassure me, Jeff's hand found my shoulder, but the pressure he exerted there was unexpected, perhaps for the both of us, and our eyes remained fixed upon one another until the sun finished setting that day. All of that was back in April earlier this year when I was about 50 years younger. So the next piece I wanted to read is also a new piece titled Anarchy, State, Intubation. When I burned my house down to its ashes, my neighbors stood near in breathless horror and asked, how? How could you do this to your children? As if it weren't my house that was burned and my children that will suffer and my decision to make in the first place. That's it. All right, the third short piece I wanted to read appeared earlier this year in Meat for Tea. It's titled Before the Curfew. Between the walls of the city's canyons, we surge forth, spilling over banks, sweeping aside cars and traffic lights, churning up the debris of a final, hopeless demonstration. Behind us, driving us onward, are the 100 jealous mouths of the city's custodial forces. They greet us through our phones, which chime now in unison and illuminate these sunless channels with images of stick figures bent into impossible positions. Ahead of us, pulling swiftly away, are our children and grandchildren, placed intentionally in a position of greater danger. We have gifted to them the responsibility to achieve what we preferred not to preserve themselves and preserve this city. To my right, a man 10 years my senior runs beside me, red-faced and puffing cheeks, sweat seeping through his navy blue polo shirt. He turns and yells directly into my ear, "Actually, I enjoy jogging." Okay. And the last thing I wanted to read today appeared earlier this year in Down in the Dirt. It's a bit longer. I believe it's still going to come in time. It's titled Structure 74-100928. The following dramatic narrative provides background to the structure currently on display. Margaret Belder discovered the photograph in an old cash box. The box itself, beaten and rusted, she found tucked into a corner shelf of her father's basement. It had apparently lain undisturbed for decades until that weekend when her father's impending move required Margaret to purge the many items long untouched from his basement. Idly curious as to what the box might hold, she picked it up, turned it sideways in search of the opening lever. The closing latch, however, had long rusted off, and so the top swung open as it tilted back, spilling onto the floor a single unmarked envelope. And within the envelope was the photograph. In the center of the photograph was her mother. She appeared to be about the same age as Margaret currently was, which was also about the same age she was when Margaret was born. Margaret was momentarily struck once again by the strong resemblance long noted between them. Despite that resemblance, or as she would soon learn, because of it, her mother had always remained as distant to her as she had to her father. Margaret was barely 7 when her mother finally left. A few years later, her father received a phone call informing them of her passing, and Margaret was never told how. From the background of the photo, it appeared that her mother was in the master bedroom of their first house, the house Margaret had lived in from the time she was born until she was 12. Although she was deeply familiar with that space and that time in their lives, there stood in the foreground of the photo 3 men entirely unrecognizable to her. Each looked exactly the same, and not a one looked in any way like the kind of person her parents would keep as a friend. They were draped in the same worn brown topcoat, covering the same drooping green sweater. Oily hair hung in tangles encircling their scabrous, balding heads. Their eyes sank darkly and sat strikingly far apart, above swollen, sallow cheeks flecked with irregular patches of thin orange scruff. Each was smiling lewdly into the camera, directly at Margaret, while her mother looked mournfully away to the ground. From the translucent date in the corner, Margaret could see that the picture was indeed taken just a few weeks before she was born. Turning it over in her hands, she found scrawled in red ink on the back the following words. As soon as your daughter or you finally finds this, we'll begin the process over again. Yodel-he-hoo. Margaret struggled for a few minutes to take in exactly what she was seeing. She turned the photograph over in her hands, dividing her attention between the disturbing image and the equally perplexing words. Just as the import of those words finally began to take hold, there rang out from upstairs the familiar slam of the back screen door. Believing her father to have arrived back early, she pocketed the photo and scrambled up the stairs, anxious to confront him with this discovery and probe him for answers. She called out as she came, but she heard no reply. At this point, it's well to remember that our constructors are punctilious and that this structure is firmly established. Upon reaching the top of the stairs, Margaret startled to find 3 now familiar figures occupying her father's kitchen. They stood equidistant in an arc, traversing the path to the back door. Each looked, just as they did in the picture, down to the identical topcoats draped over identical green fisherman sweaters. They greeted Margaret with the same leering smile she'd seen just moments before. She could barely choke out a who or a what before the 3 squat forms took a step forward in unison. Blistered mouths stretched wide, and from within gum-lined hollows there emerged a searing high whine, almost imperceptible at first, but quickly filling the entire house. Margaret recoiled a step towards the stairs, but found her legs could now scarcely bear her own weight, and as the ceiling inverted above her, the color drained from the world. When she awoke, she knew at once that she was no longer in her father's house. Although they had long been distant memories, every detail of the surrounding space quickly snapped into crisp recognition. The first was the feel of the bedspread. The second was the hue of the midday sun through the window, followed closely by the mirror above her mother's dresser. The last was the pattern of her mother's nightgown enveloping her warmly. The only perception unfamiliar to Margaret was the shape of her own body. Though the mirror revealed her face unchanged, below it was a noticeably distended abdomen, which, peering through the neck of her nightgown, she could see was capped with a herniated navel. Then, violently thrown by an unseen force, the bedroom door slammed open. Beyond the doorframe lay not the upstairs hall of her loneliest memories, but instead an impenetrable blackness, the space within as if cropped from her vision. Materializing swiftly from this darkness, stepping purposely into the rich light of her mother's room, our 3 constructors again greeted her with defiling smiles. One carried a camera on a tripod and began arranging it a few feet from the door. In her fear and rage, Margaret's body froze. She swept her eyes away into the ground as the 3 surrounded her, and just after the click and whine of the camera, they spoke the words in unison, using the piping and keening falsettos that we expect from those of their calling. As the single point of subjectivity and indeterminacy within this structure, you consent to remain within by continuing metabolic activity. Variation within the structures are appreciated, but not required. For your own safety, know that any attempts at disrupting the continuity of the structure will be unsuccessful and will result in a subjectivity reset to this approximate point in the cycle. Otherwise, the determination of your trajectory within the structure will now be ceded. By the time she'd summoned the courage to look up, Margaret was alone once again. Through the floor from downstairs, there came softly the electric purr of their family's kitchen cordless, followed by the muffled tones of her father's voice, carried with the strength of a future undetermined and ripe to be shaped. Current position in the structure, 65% complete. Faithful iterations, 3,487,774,889,103. Variant iterations, 7. Should you require further information about this structure, excite frequency 891.4. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Again. Yeah.
That was wonderful. Let me get our video back over here. Hi. So, up next,
we have a special preparation from Attack Bear Press because poor Jason messaged me earlier this afternoon. His grandmother was taken to the ICU with COVID and she's dying. She raised him like a mother, so this is this is hard, but being the amazing human that he is, he still did a reading of his chapbook and recorded it for their time slot, because he's absolutely amazing. But maybe we should just keep Jason, who looks like he's going to lose his grandma to COVID imminently, keep him in our thoughts, because that's hard. That's sad stuff. And I'm just blown away that he's still got it together to send us this. That's above and beyond.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. So I'm going to mute our mic and get his video going.
A Simple Question. Poems by Jason Montgmery. Illustrations by Catherine Weiss. Wood feeds fire. You are convinced the branch can hold fish, and the line from the trash holds true. Tied with a knot, you half know that I never taught you. We still need a hook, which I can craft from pop tops and my thumb. Flames, sizzle, fat, skin, salt, water vapor. History I know that you don't yet. You have not learned to watch smoke instead of flames for the first signs that something precious is ruined. Metal collects water. Needles dull with continued abuse, piercing skin again and again, collapsing veins like gold mines, jackpots found in the dark, without air or time, matchbook scratch pads, sharpen points, but not me. Hand me your hand and we will jump on 3 together into one more pool of summer, glittering, smooth, glass water. Sometimes life is just okay, but sometimes it is more like now. Fire creates earth. The hills off the freeway are still black, interspersed with older new growth and the cast-offs from thousands. Was it faulty fuel lines or a mishandled vice? But I too have done thousands of damn deeds. Hot, clean dust, bleach with starch, burnt fields, cow shit, and forgotten days. You sleep safe in these smells among awkwardly long limbs is a blanket from my lived youth and a half memory we now share. Earth bears metal. The owls that burrow into the banks can yell like a snake's rattle. They watch us dig away soil, uncovering the shells buried underground by the waves of a long, lost, vanished sea. Coke cans can cook when clean, cut can bottoms capably removed, conduct heat from stolen christening candles under cursed cries of just one more time. Can I imagine forgiveness? Water nourishes wood. There are turtles at Heritage Park. They were here when I was a kid. You chase their ripples and faints, but they escape. You want to dive in, find their deep homes. At 8 years, I did too. Oak acorns with cracked shells littered across a borrowed nightstand are simple mementos. They are quiet reminders, brown, red, golden tiny totems of our countless vanished ancestors. A Simple Answer. Poems by Jason Montgmery. Illustrations by Catherine Weiss. There isn't a trail of dry breadcrumbs, no bit of stale sustenance along the paths of yucca to guide our way back home. There's only machete wounds that mark my stumble here. Carve your name deep into the railroad tie with a nail from home. Score it down to the bone. It will be my reminder of pain you suffered at my hand and the scars you will always carry. They jump really fast, so you have to jump really fast so they can't catch us on the bounce slide, Dad. We are pixel people, sharing in the quest to move forward, not stopping to look back. Son, No tears could stop me from casting off the ash of the quiet inferno, those darkest low depths of the lives we just reconstructed, if I ever dropped my guard again. Water extinguishes fire. If you raged at the person I was, we could share this moment in peace. If the storm surge had flooded in and drowned metal works, quieted the furnaces, quenched that hate, then now would be cooling ash. Cry, steam tears, sizzling down, skin burning, moments you don't remember that are now lost in an oxygen fire, let loose in a plywood forest, too high in the hills for rain to reach. Wood parts earth. Post holes mile upon mile, connected by borders of steel frames, grown in the soil of distrust, protecting no one here from the rumored dreams of no one there, boundaries standing still. Ants gathered under trees with a broken twig you found behind the home team dugout bench, then kept in a glass test tube I carried with me in the sky, tied in my hopes for a better life. Water dams earth. Our home is crisscrossed with handmade streams, grid patterns of flowing water, carrying the life and dreams of all those here before me and all those after. Life in crumbling straight pathways stretching on. 5 long years lingering in the nowhere of trash-full pools, gray with the wastewater. Hello, this is Jason Montgmery from Attack Bear Press. I hope you enjoyed the Simple Questions, Simple Answer digital virtual chat book. Big thank you to Catherine Weiss for the illustrations and the layout for that book. If you like that book and you're interested, it will be available at attackbearpress.com on October 15th. I apologize that I can't join you guys tonight for 100,000 artists, poets, and writers for change. Some of you may know my grandmother was taken to the ICU with COVID, so I am in the middle of that. But I did want to make sure that we all came out. It's so important right now that our voices are heard. So thank you all. If you want to support the work that we do, we accept donations through attackbearpress.com. If you're interested in learning more about the work we do, you can email me at jasonm@attackbearpress.com. Thank you to Elizabeth McDuffie and Mark Miller and everyone at Meet for Tea for another great event this year. I wish I could be there reading virtually in person. Thank you. Have a great day.
Well, thank you, Attack Bear Press.
Who do we have up next? Oh, we just got word that nobody could hear the sound on the video. When I post this later, I'll edit in.
That's a technical difficulty we weren't anticipating.
Yeah, that's very strange.
That's weird.
I did check it before, so this is something that's definitely kind of going a little haywire. So terribly sorry, everybody.
Everything was thoroughly tested days ago too, so we're gonna
edit that in when we upload it.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm glad you could read the words on the screen at least.
Yeah,
you could read it all in your own voices. You could have that might have been charming too. Next up, we have Tommy Twilight.
Oh, let's get Tommy's audio.
Yay!
Tommy's got to unmute, and I'm gonna find.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted, and you are up and running. Hello, Tommy Twilight.
All right. Thanks, Mark and Elizabeth. Thanks for putting this together.
Thank you for. Sorry about the tech glitches.
Hey. That's tech, man.
That's life in the era of Corona. We're inured to Zoom glitches, you would think.
We are indeed.
Yeah.
All right. I have 4 poems for you to read here. They're not long. And this first one is Sunrise, 9/17/2020, through my window, Florence, Mass. Sun, orange blot in haze of sky. California burning. Fornication of earth, 3,000 miles away. I can taste the smoke. My ears are burning. My nose hair is singed. I haven't fought a fire in years. I'm 62. But I was the captain once. I was a specimen then. I was. Wildfires like this burn uphill. Wildfires like this make their own wind, their own weather. Wildfires like this can turn on you like a bitch. Last year, it was paradise burning. This year, it's hell. I wish I was there. I'm glad I'm not. This next one's called The Vance. I won't try to elaborate on what the Vance is, but I heard that Louis Armstrong, on the night before he died, he was going to go to bed, and he asked his wife if she would like to do the Vance. And you can speculate as to meaning, but I'm not sure what it means. The Vance. Click clack of the horse burned down the barn. Not the cow, Mom, not the cow. Margaret could play, damn it, she could play until she lost her fingers. She could play faster than she could run. But wind over wine, I thought we had a whole drawer full of the damn things. Now they're gone. All good is gone. Pens, Mom, pens. Ones with ink that actually runs. So I can write this damn song one more time so I can hear her play. These numbers fall one by one, 2, 3, 4 over the dawn. Here they come, push down on the hose. Tat, 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 the little titties. Like a gone rose. Mom, she's gone. With Caesar in her pocket, she's gone. She moving now, like Egypt. That big eye on the sun. Oh, she's a big girl, Mom. On the plane to Rome, faster than a speeding gun. But to hear her sing Irish whiskey with Whoosh Bray, water of life, queen of spirit, kingdom come, all good things done wrong, until her long decline of century full and circled down. Oh, to see her dance. She's a high stepper, that one. Such a fine roan. Her mane a wild tangle. Sweat and bone, sweet water, clack, click, clack to the flame. She the Vance, that one, Mom. She the Vance. The masks we wear. The masks we wear are the mirror that reflects the truth of who we are. I have a closet full of them, a different one for every day, a different one for all the lies I tell myself, a different one for every person I meet, a different one for everything I do. I'm always trying them on like an old shoe. I'm wearing one now just for you. How do you like it? Is it like looking in the mirror at yourself? I thought so too. My last piece is it's called Cowboy. My father's great uncle was relatively, actually he was pretty world famous professional wrestler by the name of Cowboy Hughes back from about the late 1920s into the early 1960s, really. And it's quite a character he was. And he ran a wrestling promotion in Nova Scotia toward the end of his career. And that's when I knew him. And his name was Cowboy Hughes. Can I touch your ears, made from broken flowers, eyes swollen, slits, where the rivulets flow like blood tears across the turnbuckle that drip down the ropes into the squared circle. Nose bent backwards without words, fastened to the rein, hand slabs of meat, bow legs slathered in horse liniment and xylene wrapped in plastic wrap. Leaves me to wonder at your face, a map that doesn't lie about the mask you wore. So lace up your boots of red leather, work the circuit from Canada to Japan to Puerto Rico to Guam. Around and around you spin, throwing the other fools from the ring. You were something then. Then the war returned. And you served. And you came back, and things were different. But the bulls were waiting for you then, just as they were. But you weren't the same, were you? You were different, cruising the streets of Halifax, megaphone blaring from your open car every Saturday night in the arena. For only one Yankee dollar, you could ride the lightning into the wind. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Mhm.
That was amazing. As always, as we've come to expect. Next up, I'm excited to introduce Nicole Young, who has work in the new issue of Meat for Tea. So welcome, Nicole. Psyched to have you.
Find you.
There she is.
Hi.
Let's spotlight you. Here's Nicole.
Yay.
In the spotlight where she belongs.
I love the spotlight. I hope my lovely
It
spotlight.
loves you too.
Yay.
Looks
Hopefully
good.
y'all can see me. Yay. So Elizabeth and Mark, thank you so very much for inviting me to read this evening. I'm going to read 3 pieces and hopefully it stays under 12 minutes because I can kind of take everybody to church. So the first piece I'm going to read is informed and inspired by a mentor I didn't get a chance to meet, Audre Lorde. The piece is called After Audre. To the little girl who grew up to be invincible in a world that deems her invisible. To the toddler who once leveled with stones who will soon look beyond the horizon as she reaches towards the sky. To the tween who stepped into her fierceness while acknowledging her fears. To the once little girl who broke through others' truths to discover her own destiny. To the one who discovered her prowess before she sought her wealth. To the one who, with ambition, wears awkward as an award. For those of us who continue to persist, aspiring for higher, even at the disdain of those with only doubts, apprehensions, and assumptions. For those of us, as we meet her with intention, may we greet her with conviction. May we only open doors for her that will lead her on a path, a beautiful journey, an amazing blueprint filled with glee, prosperity, pleasures, victories, beauty, and peace. The next piece I'm going to perform has become my anthem. I perform this now practically every time I read. I originally wasn't going to read this, but due to the grand jury on Breonna Taylor, I had to. You'll hear why as I read. It's a piece called This Loud Black Woman Shall Speak Now. You silence me in fear for what I have to say will teach you. You silence me in fear for what I have to say will reach you. You may censor me, though my points are universal. I may not look like you, sound like you, or act like you. My views are important as well. Sit back and enjoy this role reversal, for I have something to say. I can get hood every once in a while. Realize this educated sister speaks from experience. I open my mouth. You think I've gone delirious. What do you think I'm here for? Was I really born to cook, clean, and care for children that aren't mine? Have you seen my apartment? Have you tasted my last home-cooked meal? Me, a babysitter, really? These one-dimensional expectations are ridiculous. When music is loud, people get excited. When a car horn sounds, it's loud. When a train's coming, it gets loud. Warnings are loud. Loud is used to get your attention. I raise my voice not in violence. My text increases in volume as a tool for awareness. Here comes what people might consider as hard evidence. Listen closely. Bear witness as some truths will be revealed in this rant. We get angry. We have multiple baby daddies. We lie in bed all day expecting governmental handouts. We unfairly take up space. We don't want to work. We expect you to take care of us. We are disrespectfully sassy and disregard authority as we believe we know it all. I will continue on. It's time to get candid, for I've got more inaccuracies to expose. I stand before you as a 3-time college grad with 2 master's degrees in hand, and I will be starting a doctoral program this time next week. This once uncertain and unsure little Black girl, originally from the Motor City, has accomplished a lot, both on her own and through a community of support. Don't let this afro, skin color, long nails, tattoos, the sometimes attitude, the y'alls I drop every once in a while, and the slip into an unfamiliar dialect fool you. Best believe I'm a positive contributor to society who has always paid her dues. Black women provide more than what we receive credit for. We are mothers, daughters, sisters, aunties, doctors, lawyers, accountants, dentists, teachers, paraprofessionals, crossing guards, custodians, policymakers, law enforcement, first ladies, and groundbreakers. We are your neighbors, your loved ones, and in a lot of cases, your next of kin. Yet, sometimes we're the first you wish to unsee. And I'm tired of my sisters being murdered. Until their families and loved ones get justice, I invoke their spirits from the grave. Breonna Taylor, Rakia, Sandra, Ayana, Catherine, Eleanor, Raya, Taisha, Dominique, Duana, Ayana, Malaysia, Jane, Miriam, Yvette, and countless others of my sisters, cis and trans. No one should ever, ever feel the right or responsibility to assume an authority over anyone's existence. All of these women should still be breathing. We're always expected to follow the rules, even when our peers of a lighter hue are the only ones who know what it's like to choose. Too many judge those who look like me at a moment's glance. I'm willing to give us that first chance. I have every right to be angry and every right to be pissed and every right to resist. Think twice before you provoke stereotypes as your guide to start a conversation. That person you may make a sly judgment on is too of God's creation. My list of frustrations is fairly long, but today I'll ask you to take note of just a few. I'm loud because my sisters are hurting. I'm loud because anytime someone hurts us, we're told to be quiet, that our pain is just a made-up fable. I'm loud because we're the first to receive poor medical treatment and to be beaten or murdered by lovers, and at the same time told that what we are served is our fault. I'm loud because my people have been silenced for centuries, yet always forced to carry the load. It is through my ancestors' strength that I'm able to uplift the prose that flows from soul to vein to ink to paper to stage. My poetry is the world. My podium is the world. My stage is your floor. My voice opens doors. I hope that what I've shared today will no longer be ignored. I've now come to the time you've all been waiting for. It is time for this loud Black woman to take a break. Don't hesitate, because I'll be back to deliver some more news. For no one else will tell my story better than I can. And the last piece I leave you with is, I was there. Standing in fields of silence, sanctioned alone in thought, suspect on the edges of tomorrow, settled beneath the hopes of yesterday, satisfied with the loneliness of today, apprehended in a profoundness gained through this inherent voyage. Becoming a whisper within echoes. There is beauty in waiting, loitering on borrowed time. By permission to sometimes exist even in a painful yet peaceful pause. A well-kept promise to slowly digest whatever is remaining to what lies ahead. Though I may seem absent and unable to be present, just know that without a doubt, I was there. Thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity to share my work today.
Lovely.
Thank you, Nicole.
Lovely, lovely,
Snap,
lovely.
snap, 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 snap. All the snaps to you. That was amazing. We're running a little bit ahead of schedule, which is wild because we started late. But, you know, time is ever more fluid these days. I think some of you may have observed. I don't know. I have. Anyway, I am thrilled to have my friend of 20 odd years, former colleague from UMass, Justine Dymond, brilliant editor and poet and prose writer in her own right.
And hi, Justine.
Hi, Justine.
Hi. Oh, it's a real honor to be reading alongside the other fellow writers. Thank you, Elizabeth and Mark, for organizing this. I'm going to be reading an excerpt from a lyrical essay that I'm proud to say was published in New South. I think it was 2017, and Poetisa Kakpor chose it as second place in a prose contest. And it's called Brave of Worms. It's an excerpt, and I sort of excerpt it in the best way I could to make it seem somehow complete. Brave of Worms. Most afternoons in my rural western Massachusetts town, Westover C5 planes scream low over the houses and yards. If I am on the phone or talking to a visitor, I have to stop speaking. There's no way to hear over the wail of engines. If I'm outside in the yard or taking a walk when the gray plains like thunderclouds pass overhead, I press my fingers into my ears to block the sonic pain. But once the planes all pass, sometimes one every couple minutes for an hour or one every half hour for several hours, I forget about them until the next afternoon, when the piercing pitch of their unholy existence, their astonishing defeat of gravity, and the shock of their massive gray cargo bellies crawl across the sky again, so low over the yard they seem to brush the tops of the tallest trees. I started chemo on the 3rd day of June in 2014. Bi-weekly for 8 weeks, I underwent a combination adriamycin and Cytoxan therapy, including what the nurses called the red devil, a derivative of mustard gas. To control its entrance into the bloodstream and avoid burning out my vein, the red poison had to be administered by syringe, injected slowly by a nurse into the chemo port, surgically implanted over my left breast. As the cherry-colored liquid emptied from the fat syringe, a metallic taste bloomed in my mouth. When I had had the chemo port inserted under the skin by my collarbone, the nurses and other medical staff assured me that I would think it was the best thing ever. I never thought it was the best thing ever. 2 years later, where the port had been inserted, there is still an angry pink blotch circling bumpy white scar tissue. The chemo stations at the Damore Cancer Center, the Cancer Center of Love, line the outer edges of the infusion suite. I am not inventing these names. To be truthful, the hospital building is named for a benefactor whose last name happens to be Damore. But that coincidence merely highlights how the language of cancer treatment is otherwise purposefully designed to cushion the blow of diagnosis, of death. A beautifully wrapped present in which boxes are nestled in other boxes, surrounded by tissue paper and bubble wrap, but in the final inner box is a sleeping cobra. The cancer lexicon, as has been noted countless times before, often implies warfare. Cancer invades. Patients and doctors fight. Some beat the disease. More than 40,000 women a year lose their battles with breast cancer. Throughout treatment, I never felt as though I was fighting anything. I did at times feel helpless, scared, and absolutely alone. I often felt as though I was submitting to others, the nurses and phlebotomists who stuck needles in my veins, anesthesiologists who told me to breathe naturally and count backwards, radiologists who patted me reassuringly before punching biopsy needles into my breast, the surgeon who sliced into my breast and armpit. Radiation therapy was the worst. Every day for 6 weeks, I had to lie on a table while 3 technicians positioned me, measured my breast, and wrote on me, even permanently tattooed my skin. They cautioned me to remain motionless. Then they left the room, closing a massive lead door behind them, leaving me prone for a half hour while a giant metal cyclops aimed radiation into my breast, armpit, and neck. Along with the cell-destroying chemicals pumped into my veins, I was given massive doses of anti-nausea medication. Emend was the most expensive, with a copay of $150 per tablet. The pills came in individually wrapped pouches. The first time I took one, the nurse asked me if I knew how to extract the pill. I thought I did, but my hand shook so much that I pushed the pill too hard against the tinfoil covering and the tablet exploded. A fountain of expensive sprinkles spilled over my lap and onto the floor. The nurse retrieved another $150 pill from the pharmacy and opened it for me, waving away my concern about the expense. Back at home after the morning's infusion, as though I had gone out for a cup of herbal tea, I lay on the couch. By mid-afternoon, the Westover Plains were parading overhead. According to the Westover Air Reserve Base website, the tails of the C-5s are as high as a 6-story building. One plane can carry a 74-ton mobile scissors bridge, a convenient portable infrastructure when troops need to cross rivers. Westover had been slated for decommissioning, and then 9/11 happened, and it came back to life. While the U.S. made plans to invade Afghanistan, the cargo planes screeched across the sky. Equipment was on the move. I bragged to friends that we knew the invasion of Iraq would happen before George W. Bush's ultimatum to Saddam Hussein. How did we know? The planes came and went in greater numbers, the aeronautical equivalent of marching soldiers. More recently, the passing planes announced the U.S.'s involvement in the Syrian civil war. Unlike the BBC World War II dramas I like to watch, in which the RAF pilots zoom across the sky to the sound of swelling heroic orchestra music, the Westover planes, in their slower, heavier bodies, imply a more mundane, even humdrum side of war, the stagecraft of killing. In the summer of 2009, one of the C-5A Galaxy jets dropped 2 of its wheels not too far from my house. Each plane has 28 wheels in its landing gear, and each wheel weighs more than 150 pounds. The wheels landed in a wooded area where people hike and hunt, where I have watched dozens of wild turkeys cross a trail in single file, and where a moose aimed its gawky body one icy February day as it loped across the road in front of my car, its tall cartoon legs seemingly too spindly to hold up its torso and massive head. No one was hurt by the landing gear. Sometimes, while I'm sitting at my computer or lying in bed, I imagine the weight of 150-pound wheels crashing into my house, collapsing ceilings and floors as easily as I can crush tissue paper. Oncology derives from onkos, the Greek word for burden or load or mass. The April that I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I had just finished teaching Kristen Iverson's memoir, Full Body Burden, about her growing up next to the secret plutonium trigger factory in Rocky Flats, Colorado, at the height of the Cold War. Iverson details her childhood riding horses across the wind-swept landscape and swimming in the nearby lake, unaware, as many were in her town, that she breathed air and drank water contaminated by the nuclear weapons plant, which had not alerted the public to critical fires and escaped plutonium particles, invisible to the eye and deadly at the smallest amount. I counted on my students, who are often patriotic and apolitical simultaneously, to be unable to ignore the devastating consequences of their government's lies and people's unwillingness to believe scientists and whistleblowers. Local farmers discover strange mutations in their animals. Iverson and her siblings are plagued by thyroid-related illnesses. Neighbors, plant workers, and friends are diagnosed with various forms of cancer. Yet it takes decades before the weapons plant is shut down. And then, irony of ironies, the federal government designates the contaminated land a wildlife refuge. A routine mammogram led to my diagnosis. The day after the x-ray, the radiology clinic left a message on my answering machine asking me to return for more images. I got the message after hours and couldn't call until the next business day. But that night, after the message, I attended a reading by the author and environmentalist Terry Tempest Williams at the college where I teach. A decade or so earlier in graduate school, I had read her memoir, Refuge, about her mother's death from breast cancer, the same year that the Bear River Migratory Bird Sanctuary in Utah flooded. That night on campus, she read her famous essay about the clan of one-breasted women and the link between the cancer in her family and the above-ground atomic bomb testing in Nevada. She prefaced her reading that night by saying she hadn't read the essay in public in over a decade. As she spoke, I felt flushed and hot. I tried to forget the radiology clinic's message on my answering machine, but I knew I had cancer. I knew with a certainty I had never felt about anything else before. With one part of my brain, I listened to Tempest Williams. With the other, I tried not to jump up and shout and cry. In her essay, Tempest Williams eloquently unwraps the devastating irony of her Mormon ancestors' settling of Utah in Promised Land, the beauty of which infused me, an atheist, with a sense of the sacred I rarely feel in churches or other places of worship separated from the natural world, and the designation of her family's ancestral land as, quote, virtually uninhabited desert terrain, end quote, and therefore of no concern when the federal government considered the traveling fallout of atomic bomb testing. As a toddler, my daughter liked to garden with me, pulling plants up, weeds or flowers, and digging in the soil. But she hated worms and would not touch them, sharply drawing back her small hands when a worm oozed from the soil. Then one day, when she was about 3 or 4, she picked up a worm and dangled it high for me to see. She proudly declared, "I am brave of worms." My daughter was 12 in August 2016 when more cancer was found in my right breast, the same side as the first diagnosis. In the beginning of October, I underwent a mastectomy on that side. I recovered and healed for 3 weeks before undergoing a prophylactic mastectomy on the other side and breast reconstruction surgery. As the day of that surgery drew nearer and my anxiety climbed up my throat, I chanted to myself, "I am brave of worms. I am brave of worms. I am brave of worms." Thank you.
Thank you, Justine.
Very, very nice. Very nice.
That was so beautiful and
let's see.
powerful and moving.
Lamar Alexander is Buddha. John Rosso, Buddha. Marsha Blackburn, Buddha. Roy Blunt, Buddha. John Boozman, Buddha. Mike Roth, Buddha. Richard Burr, Buddha. Shelley Moore Quito, Buddha. Bill Cassidy, Buddha. Susan Collins, Buddha. John Cornyn, Buddha. Tom Cotton, Buddha. Mike Crapo, Buddha. Evan Kramer, Buddha. Ted Cruz, Buddha. Steve Gaines, Buddha. Mike Enzi, Buddha. Tony Hurst, Buddha. Deb Fisher, Buddha. Lori Gardner, Buddha. Lindsey Graham, Buddha. Chuck Grassley, Buddha. Josh Hawley, Buddha. John Hoven, Buddha. Cindy Hyde Smith, Buddha. Jim Inhofe, Buddha. Ron Johnson, Buddha. John Kennedy, Buddha. James Langford, Buddha. Mike Lee, Buddha. Kelly Loeffler, Buddha. Mitch McConnell, Buddha. Marty McSally, Buddha. Jerry Moran, Buddha. Lisa Murkowski, Buddha. Rand Paul, Buddha. David Perdue, Buddha. Rob Portman, Buddha. Jim Risch, Buddha. Pat Roberts, Buddha. Mike Rounds, Buddha. Mitt Romney is Buddha. Marco Rubio, Buddha. Ben Sass, Buddha. Rick Scott is Buddha. Tim Scott, Buddha. Richard Shelby, Buddha. Dan Sullivan, Buddha. John Thune, Buddha. Tillis. Buddha. Back to me. Buddha. Roger Wicker. Buddha. Todd Young. Buddha.
It's okay.
Lovely. Very
Thanks
cool.
so much, guys.
Ernest, Brute, and Object Echo, everyone. So, woohoo!
That was amazing.
Lovely, lovely.
So up next, Candace Curran, who I've been fortunate enough to be able to publish and who does amazing performance art.
Welcome to our 100,000 Poets, and take it away.
Thank you. Meat for Tea, Elizabeth and Mark. First poem is called Yes, We Have No Bananas. In the new trickle-down, economy pandemic, macaque monkeys steal spray cans, fight turf wars, brawl and reproduce like crazy. They are hungry, starving. They are captured, sedated, castrated and tattooed, released with numbers fast-tracking reproductive rates. Since lockdown, since the ban on travel, tourists with their selfies, trinkets, and treats for stealing, no feasts at the temple, no monkey buffet. Since the stink of it, unbearable, excrement everywhere, they grow more aggressive, running riot, as uncontrollable as the virus. The monkeys bury their dead in the projection room, in the back of an abandoned cinema in Thai City, where humans live in cages. Scrambling for scraps, we dream ourselves back into their pockets. She tells her case manager on the phone. His hands were like a noose around her neck. Said he didn't want to hurt her, but he had it up to here. And if she could just learn to keep her damn mouth shut. Stay out of his way, and oh no, she will not be filing anything. Sure as hell, she doesn't need any more trouble than the trouble she's got. But her escape bag is, well, that's gone missing. And how far she goes, he says, is how safe she and the kids are, so we stay put, but she's never been lower. Could use a little something. But never mind, never mind. She talks too much, like he says, and he takes off anyway, but a prescription or something. While upstairs, the homeschooling case manager's daughter is hiding the hand sanitizer under her pillow and washing. She washes her hands, her very cracked and bleeding hands, hurting so much she cries, wringing her fear about dying. Or her mother, who is downstairs on the phone trying to work, type reports, and be her good mother who is not dying. She church steeples her hands, prays tomorrow they can ride bikes. Six feet between and under. When you feel trapped like a fox, have to gnaw your own foot off. This one he gave you a bitch slap he will never forget. You leaving him, Whiskey burnt and heart torn right out of its porch railings, tooth and nail, truth or dare, yanked from his easy chair. You, leaving you, caught so. Who do you call then? A cab, the shelter, a friend, an ambulance, social worker, police, a priest, a ghostbuster. The man in the moon, who saw it all when trapped like a fox, what you do to save the rest. Sheltering at home, 6 feet between and under family services. The last poem is called Snuff Film. Up the sleeve and off the hood of a police CCTV, a black keys only choreography, pedal to the floor, knee on the neck of the breathless cameras rolling. It plays again, mama. The knee on the neck of an I can't breathe, true blue, cold blue, leaving wet eyes wide open. This snuff film, 8 minutes, 46 seconds, blackout, and I can't breathe, black and bold, code blue. A black keys only choreography, a get up, pedal stuck to the goddamn floor. Captured, forever, live. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. Wow.
Thank you.
So powerful.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. All right. That was wonderful. Candace Curran.
Thank you.
Who do we have up next?
Well, I believe it's your brother, my brother-in-law, and who also I've been fortunate to be able to publish in Meat for Teeth for probably starting a decade ago.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yay for that. So, David Miller in our penultimate spot.
Okay, thank you. Oops. All right, I'm starting the timer. Okay, and now I'm going to cover the timer up so I don't look at it. Okay, I have 5 poems for you, and I'll just say right off, this entire set is dedicated to Breonna Taylor. So the first 2 poems have to do with this long-standing phenomenon, which never gets any less weird, where some people who wear the word Christian like a bumper sticker, at the same time elevate individual one into something like the avatar of their belief system. So these both have to do with that. First poem, what would he do? He buddies the moneylenders back to the temple. They cough up for catering. Phenomenal deal on fish sticks and day-old loaves by the gross. He snatches a selfie with Lazarus, fakes his arms and legs all rigor mortis, pulls a cadaver face for guffaws. He corners the market on ointment for his beauty swim in the alabaster pool. They dry him with their hair because he's their only boy forever. He digs that the gal caught cheating is easy, but that redhead sobbing on the summit of skulls is definitely way hotter. Oh yeah. He rolls the rock back to the tomb, branded with his platinum name. There's a great aftermarket for shrouds. He gawks all the kingdoms of the world in a jiffy, nothing flat. He jumps, expecting the help will keep his feet from striking rock. And the next one is a re-look at the book of Matthew, chapter 13, verses 1 through 9. The parable of the sower. The teacher said, a sower went out to sow. Some seeds fell along the path. The birds devoured them, and straightway perished, wailing to their bird god. Other seeds fell on rocky ground. The rock disintegrated, rasping into a tainted air. The people came to look where the seeds had fallen. They found wells of darkness and putrid breath. Other seeds fell upon thorns. The thorns found the seeds wholesome for their needs. They ravaged so that neither vineyards nor wheat fields could be seen. Other seeds fell on generous soil. They brought forth their same kind again, a thousandfold eruption. The sower rejoiced in his harvest and went again to sow. The teacher said, "He who has feet for walking, let him run for his life." This next poem is a sestina, and because I'm not assuming everybody's familiar with that, please indulge me. I'm going to give a little background. So a sestina has 7 stanzas. 6 of them have 6 lines, the first 6, and then the final one has 3 lines. But the thing about the 6-line stanzas is that they all have the same set of end words, but the words rotate into different positions from one stanza to another. And I'm explaining this because it's hard to hear when you're just in a reading. But the 6 words are, "Go back where you came from." Go back. The pale people, they who host plague from a world across the ocean, will not go into the rivers to wash themselves. They came from a ship with a flower's name. Back in their own land, do flowers stink so? I ask you, how many times must we show them where to bathe? The strangers insist that linens are where purity happens. Underclothing sucks filth from their skins and they become clean, they believe. You and I must shut our noses from the results. They go to their God's house with dirty bodies, then back to their huts praising. Who knows why they came? This is not their land. I hear where they came from, women plaster their faces, where the pox they carry scatters pits. Keep it back, they must, the air itself poisoned, rising from their skins. For face covering fat, they go to executioners who harvest it warm. Would you wear carcass fat mashed with beeswax? Would you swallow a powder of herbs with dust that came from an unburied skull? The high people go, I hear, after dead youth's body parts. Their lusts are prolonged by eating those organs. From that feast, they think, corpses give young years back. What repair will they make to us? What give back? Speak to them simply, with reason. Never can you move them to listen. The astrologer priests from their land of illness and guns declare that where sweat makes the pores open, foul air will come in to sicken. That way their race's beliefs go. And we are to sit with them, smiling, go to their feast, hear them give glories back to their God. I ask you now, where in their faces will our guts remain calm? Can you filter pure air away from their breaths? They came here in what is called peace, where they are from, but we must force them to go. Tell them, you will carry your pestilence back with your names. For us, nothing is good where your skins come from. The 4th poem is in another form. It's the Ghazal form, G-H-A-Z-A-L. And this one has to do with that, when Black people and people of color are murdered by law enforcement, sometimes by others, one thing that you'll hear, and I need hardly tell you, you'll hear that, oh, well, the person who is now dead, well, was no saint, certainly. It was no angel, certainly, as a prevarication, right? But it makes me wonder, so who are the angels in the case? So this is titled Angelic Ghazal. Brethren, shrug your shoulders, yawn. The killed were no angels. Who will hose the blood away? Our high-fiving bro angels. Prez gotta have a pick clutching Prez Bible upside down. Prepare ye the tear gas way, arch robo angels. One body, brown, 4 hours sheeted silent in the street. Flatlined on the double yellow, feed for crow angels. Very unfair, says Prez. People to genius me are so unfair. So bless their souls with rubber bullets, status quo angels. Turn in your hymnals to Lord, we fear for our pale lives. Now sing sound cannons, let them blow, angels. Bullets, no knock through bedclothes. Justice pink slipped at the curb. I'm sick of your golf junkets, God, and your damned slow angels. And last, we'll change the mood slightly. You may have seen, about the Statue of Liberty, you may have seen photographs from before the statue was actually assembled fully. It was partly on display, parts of it here and there, some photographs from the studio in France, but it was actually partly displayed. So this final poem picks up from 3 of those photographs, and it's titled Lady Liberty in Photographs. The Head, World Fair, Paris, 1878. A bust severed just below the breastbone. Colossal head denoted Monument de l'Indépendance, flanked by park benches poised for Parisian midday slumps. Men in bowler hats retreat out of her range, staring stock still behind a barrier of bentwood chairs. Others twist up the spiral stair immured within her, poke their petite pates through the gaps below her spiked crown. Skull jewels for a wrathful deity swathed in shrubbery, her eyes sunk beneath gathered brows, deep shadowed on a sunlit afternoon beneath a corona of impalements. The right hand, Philadelphia Centennial Exhibition, 1876. Her fist erupted from pond bank, loosened to grasp a fire and lightening the souvenir stand. Bearded fellers lean and loaf at ease for the photographer. 2 of the curious have crept upwards through the arm. Out upon the base of the torch, they gander the circular view at the end of the first American century. Flame grazes their heads. The face, uncrated, verso, Liberty Island, 1885. The goddess of democracy's face stands inside out in miscellaneous weeds, propped with a tentative wood frame assortedly knocked together. We are naked to her concave shell, trespassers behind nose and chin thrust in reverse, her unbroken glare. Lasered pupils slice the ether, regardless which way her Egyptian gaze faces. Behind her facade, her skin is black. Thank you.
Hey.
Yay!
Hey there, everybody in the internet world. You can't hear it, but you can see everybody clapping.
I know. Yay!
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
So let's get back over to us here.
Brilliant.
That was David Miller. Up next,
our featured reader. The one, the only, the illustrious.
Again, you can't see everybody clapping, but on camera they're clapping.
Jane Yolen. Yay! And we're ending earlier than we even expected.
Not that anybody's going to notice when we put it up online, because it's going to be edited.
But we're not keeping you up late, and I feel good about that.
Good.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Those are hard acts to follow. Thank you, everyone. Wow. Elizabeth said that I could read as long as I wanted to, but basically I don't want to bore everybody, so I will read a bunch of poems and talk a little bit about where they either have been published or not, and go from there. Many of them, as everybody else's have been, are very particular to this time. But I want to start with 2 poems that I wrote and were published. I did a book a few years ago called Before the Vote and After, and I wrote it from the end of 2016 to the beginning of 2017. So you can imagine what I was feeling and thinking at the time. And one especially seems absolutely the right poem to read this weekend. It's called The Notorious RBG Does 20. Every day, every damn day, RBG does her push-ups. That tiny 80-year-old body does not quit. Every day, every damn day, RBG reads her email, makes not quit. Every day, every damn day, RBG fights the old cancer scars still lurking in her blood, her bones, does not quit. Every day, every damn day, you, my mother, smoked your Camels, halos of white collapsed your lungs, you did not quit. Every day, every damn day, RBG writes a note, talks of age and of anguish, but she does not quit. And I don't think she quit. Actually, I think her body quit on her. But the other poem, very short, that I wanted to read to you is for Brianna. It's called The Bullet Speaks. The bullet speaks of speed, curl of wind, the blurred lane. It speaks of singing and the blood, parted skin. It doesn't speak of the death that lies within. So that's the start. Now I'm going to read some poems that either are fairly new or very new. Some of them have been published or are about to be published. And the first one was published or is about to be published, I'm not sure, in Meat for Tea. And it's called A Chain of Proteins. So that is what will kill us, take the world off, in a storm of 16 proteins joined together, a sort of daisy chain, inked fence of infection, hijackers without masks or pistol that introduce their own strand of DNA into ours. That's what invaders always do. Kill all the men, impregnate the women, leave them to bring up half-breeds by themselves. We who study old wars recognize the pattern and the years it takes to bring back trust, honor, freedom, acceptance, and shaking hands into the world. Thank you, Elizabeth, for taking the poem. The next one is not published anywhere yet. I haven't sent out all of these. It's called Plague Mask. Oh no, this one is taken. It's taken for something called the Decameron Project. Plague Mask. Here comes the doctor in his raven mask to make us giggle, not to cure us. The curious surround him, touch his beak while the unseen virus crosses the bridge of his black nose. Oh, you who play with fire, are consumed with pathogens, are struck down. Even if you are 17, the bloom on your cheek will turn from pink to fever red. Then look how you will cavort, like plague dancers of before, like the rest of us, down into the long dark. History is a maze, a wind, a serpent swallowing its own curve. Those who study it are often prepared, but we will be lost in the traffic of no-nots, darkness swallowing us all. Another mask poem. This mask. 4 simple folds or gathers, 2 simple elastics, 1 hidden wire, a daughter's love with every stitch. She cannot keep me from the cold or from aging, but the raging virus gives her a job. 4 simple folds, 2 simple elastics, 1 hidden wire, as safe as she can make it, but the love is what I see. I have at this point about 40 different masks in various colors, because my daughter, who used to do costumes for the Amherst Ballet, keeps making these masks for me. This is called Isolate Pandemic, and it was published by online by the Straw Dogs Project. In this isolate, if two people and one large dog can call itself a hermit's cell, I consider my sins omission, not commission. Things left doing from fear or desire, or for solemnity, or mistaking loneliness for aloneness. In this isolate, where we walk each day in the woods, hear a barred owl calling, watch the soar of vultures, the trust of skunk cabbage up from black earth, where we step over roots, remark upon old granite, looking like giants asleep since the glacier tilled the earth. In this isolate, where only a mask and 6 feet off the path keeps us from passing strangers, we make meals, break bread together, talk about the news, write poetry and prose, gather in the comfort of one another's arms. In this isolate, we play at isolation, considering ourselves at 80, now safe. We keep silence in our hearts, but only those silences we wish to hear. Then, on one of those walks that I mentioned, this happened. We found an old cemetery in the woods, and so it's called Old Cemetery, hidden in the woods. Your scoured stones, the names barely readable, as if those below had already risen on this Easter morning. I touch the cold outlines, dates of births, deaths, think of centuries you've lain here undisturbed. Such patience, which you may never have had in life, is God's gift to you while he sorts through hundreds, thousands of war and virus victims only now banging on his gates, changing the neighborhood with their entitlement and demands. This one's a little bit lighter, a little bit. It's not published either. It's called When I Was a Bird. Before I became a woman with several names, I was a wild thing, living tree limb to tree limb, lurking at pond sides, not yet reluctant to swim. No noisy duck, no graceful swan. I was more kingfisher, looking down into fathoms, longing for notice, considering fish, dropping the occasional berry into the water. Now I am more dove than doubter, tidy and land-bound, long-lived and settled, one egg at a time, one mate at a time, one nest at a time, one life at a time. The sky of little interest, gray wings to keep me warm. Now, perhaps a little more upbeat. It's called Be Kind. Be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. That's a line from Socrates. I am in the park where many strangers distance themselves, no chance to be unkind or kind. But one of us probably has the virus. Another has just buried a mother or an old dog. One has run out of baby food. Another has been told her cancer is back, or his job is gone, or his car is totaled. Those two bickerers are about to divorce. Pain writes its filthy lines across a face or digs them deep like a hawk's talons into the beating heart, where it is unseen, unheard, but always felt. I will tell you my beads of pain. You do not have to tell me yours. So not exactly upbeat, but a little. A friend of mine, some of you may know, Michel Mouchabek, who is a Palestinian Arab who lives in America and runs both Interlink Books and Booklinks, talked about writing to a friend and offering the keys to his house in Jerusalem. And this is what I wrote in response to him. I sent it to him. It's called That House in Jerusalem. We say it too, dear friend, though 1,000 years apart, next year in Jerusalem. We mean to share the sun, the dates falling from the palms, Bilbil with its white spectacles, reeds in the lazy water. We do not always agree on custom, food, but neither do I share my neighbor's Trump sign across the New England road that separates us. Still, I will help him if he falls. Many years ago, when I worked in a kibbutz, I shared orange picking with Yemenites. Our common language was folk songs, which we sang back and forth all day long. I like to think that life can be as uncomplicated as a song between neighbors, but I am not so naive. What lies between us are years of rubbing old sores, binding new wounds, telling the beads of pain over and over to keep them fresh. Here is the key to my house. I hope you can give me the key to yours. Here are the funny poems. Opening the door in your nightgown. Aphrodite, as she should, in her nightie, looked real good. But if you are doorway bent, just be sure you're not negligent. And I do like puns. This one is called With or Without Cream. Running late-ish, for a date-ish, inoculati with some coffee. I have to tell you, I believe that laughter in the face of religious indignation is the only defense. I speak as someone who has been part of 2 of the following religions. Have been. An equal opportunity offender. We now live in a country that has ticked off Episcopalians, those staunch defenders of a particular truth. Not like Baptists who can kill the whole and wholly kneeing you once again in the neck with what they see as the true. Meanwhile, we Jews, consummate wailers and warriors, will lose ourselves in desert politics and the hill pull of explained nations. The Unitarians always united in their disdain of decisions, and the Quakers standing on the vigils of injustice, so long they have grown holy bunions and will finally sit down. The Catholics have the best get out of hell card still in play. No sin too great to confess and move on, rinse and repeat. As for the Episcopalians, they grit their collective teeth, white, tight, and unassailable, to deliver a mighty teach. Never quite frightens the horses of righteous indignation. Oh yes, if we have driven the bus of divinity into a ditch, it's going to take more than a fire truck of Episcopalians to drag us out. I thought you might like that, David. And I think I'm going to have one more and then go back to my book for a minute. This one is saying thank you. And I do this to you, Elizabeth and Mark. Thank you. Saying thank you is not hard. Finding time to say it harder. Yet the flowers of the fields find time to say it. Deer as they crop, the small grass find time to say it. Fox at the top of his crescent leap finds time to say it before he is on his descent with a vole crushed between the gleam of his teeth. If tree and root, if hawk in its stoop, a whale in its moment of filling the air with spout, can pause, think, pray, say thank you for this time, this day, this beat of heart, this chance to bring forth something good into the world before leaving it, can say it. You can too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And the last two poems I'm going to read come from, is it two or is it three? Two. One is called Kelson. We are on a ship without a spine, crossing waters last plowed a century and a half ago. I no longer have Whitman's optimism nor his capacity for love, but I do have a spine. You will not put me back in chains. You won't engrave a number on my arm, on my heart. I will not go meekly into the oven nor bend the knee beneath the lash. I am the Kelson of the day. Where I go, what waters I plow, will become clear and drinkable after I've passed. This ship of state will not sink, for we'll toss some overboard and sail our way, if winds permit, home again. So that's kind of a cry of anger, and that was 2017. So imagine how much more it means to me now. But this is the one that I want to end with. It's called The Line. And it's from a John M. Ford poem, Winter Solstice, Camelot Station. The train may stop, but the line goes on. Lincoln weeps at Union Station, viewing bodies in the dawn. Trains all stopping, doors yawn open, but the line goes on. Roosevelt at Hyde Park Station waits for crowds to be long gone, counting voters from all the nation. Train has stopped, but the line goes on. MLK Montgmery Station walks with folks that he leans upon, arm in arm past buses waiting. Buses stop, but the line goes on. The arc of justice moves so slowly as we walk from dusk to dawn. Often we see no trains coming, but the line goes on. So all my poet friends, thank you for letting me share with you. And all poet listeners, thanks too. And thank you, Elizabeth. That's it.
Thank you to everybody. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Nicole, Ernest, Carl, Candace, David. This is going in the mail to everyone soon. Some of it has been in the mail. This is the new double issue of Meat for Tea. So you see there's one cover. There's two front covers. Look at the spine. It's massive. Yes, you're in this, Jane. And David. So half the contents are one direction and half are this direction.